Hello and welcome back to another interesting episode of Holistic Happiness Club. This episode is interesting because we have a very esteemed guest from across the oceans on our show. His name is Martin Patella and he has a very interesting journey of healing himself. He was into technical world and then he came to health and healing. He talks a lot about how one can get sick and how one can recover from that sickness. He is a life enthusiast and works on the dimension of functional medicine. He has a rich experience and lot of knowledge about one's health. So we are going to learn a lot of things from him into this discussion. But before we get into this discussion, I just want to say thank you so much to you. Thank you so much for tuning into Holistic Happiness Club. And as always, I will try to give you the best value of your investment of time into Holistic Happiness Club. And a special thank you to all of you who decide to tune into Holistic Happiness Club every single week. Your investment of time, that is the fuel of Holistic Happiness Club. So please keep supporting us the way you have always been supporting, and please spread the word so that we can reach out to more and more people. If you don't know me, my name is Akshay Tiwari. I'm a holistic happiness coach, founder of Holistic Happiness Club, also the author of the book named Usher. At Holistic Happiness Club, we believe that happiness is not a single faceted thing, it's a multifaceted thing, and that's why it needs to be treated in a 360-degree holistic way. More about me and more about Holistic Happiness Club at the end of the episode, but for now, let's get into discussion with Martin. So hi Martin, a very good morning to you. It's in India. It's in the evening or almost night, but I guess it's in your place. It's morning. So very good morning to you and all your listeners. Have a very good day, and thank you so much for making time out and coming on this show. I'm honored to have you in this show. So to our viewers, just let them go through with your story a little bit, because I understand I have read your profile and I have seen your work, but multiple of my viewers or listeners might not be knowing your story. It's a very interesting and fascinating story how you have got into this field. So I want you to tell your story from your own way. So please go ahead.
Sure. Happy to do it. Well, born in 1952, went to, I was in Czechoslovakia in my early years, went to school, became computer science and business administration major.
Wow.
And then I came to the understanding that I just could not stay in a communist country. This was before the Eastern Bloc, before the Russian Empire fell apart. And anyway, I became a refugee. I ended up going to Canada, and of course, not enough experience with the new world. Like, I was really inexperienced. I grew up in a regime that's totally foreign to that. So early in, I got a job with full medical coverage and dental coverage, and ended up going to a dentist, and that was quite the experience. I ended up with 12 Mercury amalgam fillings.
Wow.
I didn't know it was Mercury. That was not part of the discussion. They just said, we'll give you some fillings.
Some feelings, yes.
Well, Mercury is one of the most toxic things that you can put in your body. And so the next few years was a very steep decline in health. So I came in as 24-year-old strong, healthy man, and 8 years later, I was very broken. I had a lot of problems, back problems, couldn't walk straight, periodontal disease, allergies, weight gain. I was in constant pain, really, just seriously bad. And I first went to the allopathic system because that was my education. I thought, well, they'll help me. But no, they didn't help me. I went to the chiropractic because, after all, my problems were mostly that my structure was falling apart. I had carpal tunnel syndrome, I had plantar fasciitis, My back would just go fall apart. I had sciatica. I had aches and pains throughout my body. These days, it would probably be called fibromyalgia.
True.
It was just inflammation throughout the body.
And it was what age? What?
I was 25,
Okay.
and things got really serious by the time I was maybe 30, 34. Like it was just a decline. And so at first, I was just seeking help from the professionals.
Yeah.
And after about 7 or 8 years of just going downhill, I finally realized that I had to fix myself. I think by that time it was 1984, 84, 85. Yeah. And I thought, well, look, you're a systems analyst. You understand how to analyze things. So I did. And I came to the conclusion that the mainstream, the Western allopathic model, as popularized in America,
Yeah.
is is not really functioning well. All they do is they focus on a symptom and they try to just re-regulate or block the symptom.
Okay.
That's not how you fix anything. Like in business management, you always ask, what is the cause of this problem?
True.
In the medical world, they don't. They
They,
don't care what the cause is. They just want to slap something on it.
yeah.
And this was the experience with the medical doctors and the chiropractor and the naturopath. They all were just treating the symptoms. So at some point, I realized that I will have to help myself, and I started studying in earnest old literature, like old things. Like I went back to the herbology, and I went back to homeopathy, and I went back to Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine, trying to understand what the principles are. And and I learned that you must treat the person based on their biological individuality, not based on the symptoms that they're presenting, but on the causes of these.
True.
And so over the course of next few years, I've learned a lot, and then I figured out it was the mercury that was the problem for me. I
Okay.
mean, in general, right? Industrial age toxins.
True.
Part of it is genetics, because my genetics were with some of the SNPs, including the lesser ability to detoxify. My methylation ability is lowered, and that's a common problem these days.
Mhm.
It's the MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase enzyme is less functioning, meaning I just get toxic and I can't get rid of it,
Yeah.
or not, at least not as efficiently as others.
Yeah.
So that was the bottom line of it. So that was about 1987, and then over the next 5, 6 years, I was working on myself to get better. So by the time 1994, 95 rolled in, I was back at functioning.
Okay. Okay. And all this while you were working as a professional?
Yeah, yeah. I was in the information technology. I
Sure.
was doing professional sales and technical training. So this was the era of the microcomputers coming in. I
Yes.
was riding the wave of the personal computer. Like I
Wow.
was selling the early computers, and I was training people on early software. We were telling people what computer aided drafting is, CAD. AutoCAD was the early entry. I was teaching people what desktop publishing was all about.
Wow.
I was teaching people what a word processor was, right? Like this was early days.
Yes, you were riding a wave that time. So how did this transition happen from being riding that wave and then coming to this health industry and teaching people, educating people that what health is all about?
Well, by the time the year 2000 rolled in, we had the internet. It was already rising. I
Yeah.
was building websites for others, and I realized that well, that the wave was over. By the time year 2000 rolled in, it was no longer pioneers. We were now settlers. The information technology was taking over. It was clear to me that the internet was going to be dominant.
Yeah.
I tried to be part of an internet startup in I think it was 1996. You should have read the business plan. It was pretty close to what eBay has become, but we didn't get enough funding, and the business was called Internet Exchange,
Okay.
and we were working on putting people together creating the escrow middle where the
Oh, yeah,
trust, I mean, I understood that trust was going to become the most valuable commodity of the information world.
that was
And
quite a
so we were to introduce the trust between a customer and a seller.
yeah.
Well, eBay became that. We lost out. We had the idea, but somebody else got there first.
Okay, no issues.
It was interesting. It was an interesting few years that I was working on that. But in the end, I decided to heck with that. I'm just going to go into helping people. So
Wow.
I started my own website. It's called Life Enthusiast. It's running to this day.
Okay.
And I also became a partner in a business that's called Exula, where we manufacture superfoods. So we make nutrient or nutritional products that help to compensate for the deficiencies of the industrial age food production.
Okay. So we understood the story. Now, for the benefit of the listeners, please walk us through that how, I mean, this functional medicine thing that works in reality. I mean, if a person comes to you that, hey, I have got this problem. So what is your
Mhm.
modality that you look for and how,
Right.
I mean, I just want you to touch upon that and yeah, then
Mhm.
take next.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so over time, I was learning on myself and then on others. And at some point, I became certified as a metabolic typing advisor,
Okay.
which is a branch of information that understands how genetics or our genetic inheritance,
Mhm.
what our ancestors give us, relate back to our physical expression. To give an example, if somebody's ancestors live at the coast, they will likely be fishermen and they will be likely eating a lot of the food that comes that way. So they'll be fishing and they'll be eating the coastal foods
True.
and so on. If they are in the tropics, as in warm climate, they will probably have easy access to plant foods year round. So there will be fruits and veggies and whatever. And they'll be different than, for example, where I was growing up, which was Central Europe, 50 degrees north,
Yeah.
where you have 6 months of winter and 6 months of growing. So the growing season there is about 180 days.
Yeah.
And other people living even farther away from the equator, their growing season's only 90 days.
Yeah.
So it became clear that many people live on a diet that requires eating animals,
Mm.
meats, whereas when you're in the tropical world, being a vegetarian is a lot easier thing.
True.
And of course, in part of my journey, I learned about yoga and I studied that, practice it to this day. And of course, reading the literature, it's just says, well, ahimsa, the not being harmless to others, all of that, right? The principles of it. And so I definitely tried the vegetarian path. I
True.
was several years quite committed vegetarian. And
Okay.
it turned out that it didn't really work well for me because my physiology
Mm.
is just not compatible with it. So I realized, it's really easy to be a vegetarian when you're 10, 20 generations back have lived in a warm climate.
Right. Right. So
Anyway, so that story. So in metabolic typing, you learn about the two main types, and they're called macronutrients. The macronutrients are um, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins.
okay.
And interestingly, chemically, they're very simple. Carbohydrate really is just carbon and hydrogen put together in various ways. And
Right.
fats, you add oxygen to it. So it's just three elements connected into a molecule.
Yeah.
And protein, you add nitrogen.
Nitrogen, yes.
Anyway, so two main types. In a manner quite similar to how you have people who are left-handed or right-handed, you
Mm.
have dominance in one type that is mainly lipooxidative, as in processing fats, and the other one that's carboxylative, processing carbohydrates. And one type is alkalized by fats and acidified by carbohydrates, and the other one is reversed, where you're alkalized by carbohydrates and acidified by fats. And that this pH balance is very important in a human body. And acidity comes with certain symptoms, and alkalinity comes with certain symptoms. More alkalinity, you get people who are nicer, friendlier, but they procrastinate and don't get much done.
Mm.
And in extreme, they get depressed.
Yeah.
People who are acidic, they wake up early and they are very energetic and they get a lot done, but they tend to be abrasive, short-tempered, and in extreme, easy to anger.
Yeah.
Rage when it's externally expressed, or anxiety when it's internally directed. And so you see people who are quite anxious or quite depressed,
Mm.
but not at the same time. Like they can be swinging back and forth, but not at the same time. So I learned about that. And then the other thing that came into view was the just the general malaise of the industrial age food growing, food processing. And
Mm.
it's the application of herbicides and pesticides, and also of fertilizers. Because when you use fertilizers, they they tend to grow food really quickly, but they tend to deplete the soil. There's not enough micronutrients in the soil. The plant will grow looking fine,
Yeah.
but chemically it's
Yeah.
really lacking.
Yeah.
And of course, the other bits like herbicides and pesticides, they're hostile and toxic. They really cause people to have
Mm.
toxicity in the body. I had that myself.
Yeah.
So I eventually developed this 4-point program, which is based on the main causes of illness
Mm.
are the blocking factors that are preventing the homeostatic system to maintain health. I mean, our bodies are self-regulating. They do want to be healthy. They do want to function well, but the blocking factors are preventing that.
Yeah.
And I call it toxicity, which is presence of things in your body that shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Malnutrition, which is absence of nutrients that should be there but aren't being acquired.
Mm.
Stagnation, which is essentially lack of movement in the fluids in the body, but
Mm.
also lack of movement as in lack of exercise.
Okay.
And that's this modern life. There's, well, more sedentary, right? When you're
Yeah.
sitting at a computer
Yeah.
for 12 hours a day, you definitely are going to become stagnant.
True.
And of course, we are all naturally conserving energy. We are not motivated to move.
Yeah.
So we need to move. We're supposed to move. We are supposed to walk something like 10 kilometers every day,
True.
which would be something like 15,000 steps, right?
Yes.
The third one is trauma. Trauma is the invisible thing.
Yeah.
One part of it is the emotional development. Whatever happens in our childhood programs us to have certain limitations, whether it's a phobia or a fear of some sort, or just concepts that are in our heads.
Yeah.
And they actually create problems, and they should be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And then lately I've added to it EMF, electromagnetic fields and frequencies, because
Okay.
that that in itself is invisible, and it's pushing a lot of mm, negative influence on our body.
Okay.
It's known as the voltage gated calcium channels.
Okay.
Every cell,
Mm-hmm.
every cell, when affected by very shortwave frequencies, like in the 4G or 5G millimeter waves,
Mm-hmm.
activates this flooding of the cell with calcium. And calcium and magnesium are the two minerals that are controlling the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
Calcium activates the fight or flight, the stress side,
Mm-hmm.
and magnesium is the opposite. It will activate the repair, rest, digest, parasympathetic side.
Yeah.
So if you're flooding with calcium, you're going into stress.
Mm.
And when you're in stress, you're not healing. You're fighting for your short-term survival.
Yep.
Whereas the parasympathetic, that's the long-term survival. That's the repairs, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the story of me learning the understanding of it. So how would I then implement it with a person that
Yeah.
I meet now? It will be a conversation similar to this.
Yeah.
So you're coming to me with symptoms. You have problems. Let's list that up. Well, you possibly have chronic pain in your joints. You possibly get headaches. You'll possibly have a lack of energy, fatigue. You may not sleep well, things like that, right?
Sure.
And so then we start asking, why is that? And
Yeah.
those are the blocking factors. We need to deal with all of them.
All of it.
Where are you toxic? Where are you lacking nutrition? Are you moving enough? And what are the traumatic events in your life that are bringing this into expression, right?
Sure. Real quick, I'm sorry for pausing the discussion. I'm sure that you are enjoying this interesting discussion. And if you think that this discussion, this information should reach more and more people, I have a very special request to all of you. If you are listening to this podcast on iTunes and Spotify, please rate us there. They have a special feature where you can rate the podcast. Please rate us up to the 5 star, and please leave a comment or a suggestion in their section of comment. Okay, that will help us reach more and more people. That's the best way you can help this podcast. Also, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, please like this video, please share it with your friends, and please subscribe to this channel. That was the special request from my side. Please enjoy the rest of the discussion. So now, if someone, so you have told the modality. If I come to you with some symptoms that, hey, Martin, I am getting these problems, you need to treat me. If somebody, I mean, how do I know? I mean, because we are so disconnected with ourselves in this world that sometimes we don't even know that we are sick. Okay, and we have got pain, and we are. I mean, in India, it is very easy to reach. I mean, to buy a painkiller, you could go to any chemist shop, and I think it is the same thing in most of the developing countries. So in US, in Europe, when you go, it's very hard to buy medicine. If you need to have a prescription, only certain medicines you can buy. But in India, you can buy most of the medicines without prescription. And painkiller are anyways very easy to buy
Mhm.
most part of the world. So when we have a pain a little bit here and there, and body is trying to tell me that something is not right, you need to look for it. But what do I do? Because of the work pressure, because of the home environment and the condition that we are living in the life, we just reach out to a painkiller. Or if we are having some acidity or something, then we
Mhm.
reach out to the antacids and all, which are available over the counter, and then we subside our symptoms. So how a person will get to know that this is the time they need someone to help them?
Right. Well, first of all, it's a philosophical approach, right? You
Okay.
have, when you come to the realization that there are short cuts and then there are the fully worked out solutions, you
Yeah.
need to understand that when you take the easy path, you
Yeah.
will probably pay the price later.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a bit of wisdom. I think we are tempted by the easy button, the quick solution, the,
Yeah.
oh yeah, just push this button,
Yeah.
take this pill, it'll go away.
Yeah.
It does not go away.
Just
It's
subside for the
it's
time.
it's when you can lie to a friend and
Yes.
get an advantage,
Yeah.
but in the end, it's going to cost you the friendship,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And if you lie to too many people, you end up very alone.
True.
So it's that similar kind of approach philosophically, is that when you don't ask the question, what is the cause of this, you will end up on a trajectory that has you masking the symptom and
Hmm.
causing a problem. Like you mentioned, I don't know, painkiller, paracetamol or something like that.
Yep.
You take that, the pain is gone,
Yep.
but the cause for the pain is not gone. To
True.
give an example, your headache is not caused by a deficiency in paracetamol. Your breast cancer is not caused by deficiency of tamoxifen.
Yeah.
Your I don't know what else. Your obesity is not caused by a deficiency in Ozempic or any other of these things that you can buy in a pharmacy.
True.
The pharmacy presents to you not solutions, but um, shortcuts.
Yep.
So once you learn that oh, the long-term cost of me taking painkillers is going to be the destruction of my liver and my kidneys,
Yep.
So how long do you want to go with that? That
True.
somebody will suggest to you, well, if you have a heartburn, stomach regurgitation, the medical system will say take a proton pump inhibitor
Yeah.
like Tagamet or something like that. That's a shortcut that will cost you dearly in the long run.
True.
So you need to somehow come to the realization that the shortcuts will not serve you in the long term. And
Sure.
then, well, go see an Ayurvedic physician. They will treat you with the view of healing a patient. Go
Exactly.
to see a Western trained allopathic physician. They will see you with the view of selling you a prescription or not prescription, but selling you a drug.
Yeah.
I'll say it this way, that the motto of the Western doctor is heal the patient, lose a customer.
Okay. Okay.
That's not been the thinking of the old school people, whether it's traditional Chinese or Ayurvedic or homeopathic or herbology. They all see the task as healing the person. The
Yes.
Western medicine does not.
Yes. I mean, it's good when it comes to emergency solutions. Uh,
Sure.
yeah. But other than,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastically well trained, right? And they learned most of what they know on battlefields.
Yeah.
You
True.
know, in wars, there is an endless supply of people who are at the brink of death.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you can do heroic measures
Right.
trying to save them,
Yeah.
and nobody argues if you lose the patient because they were going to die anyway.
Yeah.
That's where they learned what they know. And thank God for that, because after all, I do appreciate that they can save me if I end up in a car accident or in some other traumatic injury. I very much appreciate their ability to save me short term, but their methods do not work for long term, for chronic issues.
Yes. Yeah. So thanks for touching on that. You also talk a lot about invisible ocean. So I want you to touch upon that part, invisible ocean, and how does that affect all of us, and then we'll come to the last part, that is supplementation.
Sure. Well, if you try to think of us here on the planet Earth,
Mhm.
we are, well, no, I'll try to make it smaller. Visualize an aquarium. You
Okay.
have an aquarium with fish in it.
Mhm.
And the fish would be like the cells in your body, and the water in the aquarium would be like the bodily fluids. You have blood, plasma, urine, all of that things that are in your body. They move around,
Yeah.
and the cells of my body are nourished by nutrients being moved by the blood, but then the blood actually has to come to the end point and put whatever's in them into the interstitial or extracellular fluid. And that's where my cells will extract nutrients, but also deposit the metabolic waste.
Yes.
So back to the fish in the aquarium. You feed the fish by throwing food into the water,
Yes.
and they poop in that same water.
True.
So if you do not have efficient filtration,
Mm.
and you can either have it artificial, where you have a pump and a filter, or you can have it natural, where you have a lot of plants growing in the aquarium that are taking the carbon dioxide and putting out oxygen, and they are taking the toxins and neutralizing them or absorbing them into the plant bodies.
Wow.
So the critical point is this.
Mm.
When your fish are unwell, do you inoculate the fish, or do you change the water in the aquarium?
Or we change the water in the aquarium,
Change the water. Treat the aquarium, not the fish.
not the fish.
Likewise, for the human body,
Yeah.
if I'm sick, I'm probably sick because there is the terrain in which my cells exist
Mm.
is somehow damaged, toxic, not working right. So that's the perspective we take. Whereas the allopathic medicine tries to treat the fish. I try to treat the aquarium.
Okay. It's an interesting analogy when you put it that way, that fish and aquarium. So thank you so much for explaining that. I'll come to the last part of the show for today, and that will be supplementation and superfood, because sometimes it becomes controversial as well in some places. Some people who are very hardcore traditional, if you go with the Ayurvedic or uh, herbal
Mhm.
point of view, that no, we are not going to take any kind of pill which is manufactured in a kind of lab. Okay, so I want you to explain on that a little bit, also how supplementation helps, and also on this term that supplementation industry is a little bit less regulated when it comes to, and it is when it is compared to the other drugs. So
Yes,
how a normal person, I mean, can go for supplementation, and how do you, because you also are into this field, so how do you tackle this problem?
right. Well, so I start with trying to understand the genetics of the person. Are their ancestors the coastal or the inland? Are they cold weather, warm weather, whatever the nutritional profile is? Because
Hmm.
we need to feed into that. We need to nourish and support.
Okay.
The question of regulation, a toxic item, a pharmaceutical drug, is always a toxic thing. So you need to be watching the dosage very carefully. You need to be sure that it's manufactured in a very narrow, precise band that you are, one sec. Um, you need to be sure that the product is not contaminated with other things. Like when you, for example, are buying pills that are manufactured in a pharmaceutical facility, you want to be sure that if you're buying a vitamin B12 that they made, that it's not contaminated with something that they made in a batch just prior to that. I don't know what that could be.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, drug that gives you sexual function or whatever it is. I don't know.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Any chemical, you want to be
Yeah.
sure that it's pure. This is not a requirement for items that are food,
Hmm.
like something that grew on a tree or in a field or just, let's call it God's creation,
Yep, natural.
is natural,
Yeah.
is seldom toxic or seldom in concentrations that can kill you. There are a few things that are like that, but mostly not.
Mostly not, yes.
So in my mind, there's no need to apply the regulation that's required for pharmaceuticals
Yes.
to apply that to nutritionals because that's not nearly as intense. Now, there's the in between, which is the concentrated supplementation that has been created based on the pharmaceutical thinking and extracting things from plants and concentrating it.
Hmm.
So you can indeed overdose on some minerals, right? If I concentrate, like the daily limit for potassium is 4,500 milligram. If you push it too far, I don't know, 5 times the daily dose, you can create dysregulation. And because it controls your heartbeat, you can give yourself a heart attack.
Of course. Of course.
And you can also do that by drinking so much water without any minerals that you will dilute your micronutrients and
Yes.
you can dysregulate it that way.
Yes.
And we have seen that people who ran a marathon drank so much water that they overhydrated themselves and gave themselves a heart attack doing it.
Yeah. Drinking too
It's
much water.
possible you can do that. I mean, even water in excess will drown you, right?
Of course. Of course.
Salt in excess will definitely cause you problems,
Of course.
but you need it, right? So there's these ranges within which you need to operate.
No.
I personally prefer to have food that has been grown on healthy fields that have not been made poisoned by chemicals, that have been fertilized naturally.
Hmm.
By that, I mean rock dusting is a good thing. I don't know if you even hear of it or not.
Can you please
It's one of the
elaborate on that
natural
term a little bit
yeah,
more?
natural practices, right? Like you need to return the micronutrients to the soil. So you want to take something like basalt or some other natural volcanic material, grind it into powder and throw it on your field.
Okay.
And you want to use a natural fertilizer like compost or manure or things like that, that will replenish the soil. Not just the petrochemicals, which are the NPK,
Yeah.
that would be nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those are those are needed and they make your plants grow fast and strong. But you can speed up the growing so much that you will end up with a plant that looks good, but is actually deficient in nutrients.
Yeah. Because the speed has been so fast that I think that it has not accumulated enough minerals and
Mhm.
micronutrients which it required.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so bottom line is that we don't need, because just because something looks like pills and pills, that one is pharmaceutical drug and other is supplement. So this is what I understood from your statement, that, if correct me if I'm wrong, if I've not understood correctly, that because those are drugs and pharmaceutical drugs are having some compounds which may be very harmful if they exceed the dose, that's why there are heavy regulations on them. But
Mhm.
just because supplementation looks like pills, they are not as harmful, even if there is a little bit here dose here and there. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that's why there is this less regulations.
Right, but still, you need to be more
Of course.
careful with the concentrated supplements
Yes.
rather than eating food.
Yeah, so for further enhancement on how you are going to take supplement, it's go to your coach, consult with your health practitioner, only then take supplementation. Don't try to
Right,
supplement at yourself.
right.
Yeah,
But I tell you, my suggestion would be is go traditional and eat traditional things. Like, for example, a really famous antioxidant is curcumin,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
Curcuma, you know it. It's
Yes.
that beautiful orange pigment
Yes.
that's part of curry and cooking and whatever.
Yes.
But in research, they have found that you need to actually combine it with fats in order to make it effective. Well, guess what? When you're cooking a curry meal,
Yes.
you cook it either with ghee or coconut oil, and you will naturally have fats in it.
Yes.
That is how it's supposed to be used,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So naturally, right? Or we used to, well, in India, it was very common that plant oils were
Yes.
extracted from seeds, but
Yes.
they were done fresh. There used to be these grinders that would come through the village, and they would grind your oil and extract the oil, and you would only get maybe 1 or 2 weeks supply,
Yes.
small scale.
Yes. Yes. It used to be like that. And also, it was mostly wood pressed and cold pressed, so that you don't lose so much of nutrients when you
That's
are,
right.
uh,
Right.
yeah, industrializing the process, when it is too much heat and when you are producing oil. So it loses that essence of its
Yeah,
naturalness.
exactly. And so now we have the industrial scale production. They do that more efficiently. And so they now try to store it. And so rather than using it up inside of a week, now it has to last for a year.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't happen without refining it. What
Yes.
do they refine out of it? The most valuable fragile oils come out.
Yeah.
So now you're nutritionally deficient. It looks okay. It looks the same, but it is not the same at the nutritional level.
Yeah. Okay. So at the end, what will you advise, because the listeners mostly for the show are office goers, a general public, so what would you advise in the end to these people, that how they can stay healthy, how they can keep a check on their toxicity and their stagnation, and that whether they are deficient or
Right.
not? Yeah.
Well, these days in the Western world, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in America, industrialized world, we are in trouble. We are in huge amount of trouble
Mm.
because the industrial age has put out a lot of toxins into the environment. So today it's impossible to live a good life without taking detoxification. And so I'm relying on zeolite. I'm relying on humic acid and fulvic acid. I take that every day.
Okay.
Another thing that's important is water. You want to eliminate the intake of toxic things. So I'm filtering my water and using devices to structure the water to improve the energetics of the water. We can talk about that.
Sure, we
Then,
can do that.
when it comes to the air, you try to avoid all the contaminations. So I do not use artificial fragrances or any of the ways of polluting the air.
Okay.
Um, I keep my, clean soaps, healthy makeup, or cosmetics or whatever. You
Mhm.
need to read the labels. If it has toxic things on the label, do not put it on your body. Just don't.
Sure.
So keep the toxins out of your body in a very, very what's the word? Vigilant way.
Yeah.
And then nutrition, similar story. These days, grains in America anyway are grown with the use of glyphosate, Roundup. that's an antibiotic that destroys the microbial terrain in your gut.
Yes.
You cannot eat that. It doesn't kill you instantly. It just kills you slowly.
Totally. Yes.
Similarly, chlorinated water, chlorine is put in water in order to kill microbes. Well, don't put chlorine in your body because it kills the microbes.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned that you specialize in talking to people about chronic disease like fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
That comes at the back end of this industrial age toxicity rising and causing the body to break down under the load.
Yeah.
There are other issues, of course. There's the brain programming. The amygdala programming is part of it. The stress response needs to be retrained.
Okay.
But the toxicity must be removed.
Yeah.
And the most important, really, really most important, is the health of the gut, the microbiome within.
Okay. So bottom line is go as natural as possible in all areas of your life, whether you're eating, whether you are using cosmetics, and move your body around a little bit, and then your mental health. I think these are the bottom line I got from your statement. So thank you so much. And in the end, if people want to reach out to you for any reason, where they can find you.
All right. The website is called Life Enthusiast.
Okay.
It's life-enthusiast, ENTHUSIAST.com.
Sure.
There are 400 or more podcasts. You can listen to that. That's given away for free. There's a lot of information given away.
Yeah.
The metabolic typing test is something that will probably be a good value that can be done. It comes with an interpretation and coaching and advice on how to implement it in a person's life. So that may be a useful thing to do.
Okay.
Beyond that, unfortunately, shipping to India is a challenge. So I wouldn't
All right.
try to sell you. I wouldn't try to advise a customer to come and try and make purchases from our website to ship the stuff to India. I would go look locally.
No issues. We will wait for your products to come to India, or my podcast to reach US. Then you can make more use of it. Anyways,
Well, yeah, it's been easier. The United States is much less protectionist. It allows to import things without
yes.
silly duties. India at this point has a highly protected economy
Yeah.
with high import barriers, which
Yeah.
unfortunately I think it's an unwise method because it makes your internal market weaker.
Yes, it does. So, to all the listeners, if you are listening to this and if you want to contact Martin and to produce the superfoods and supplements locally in India with his wisdom, with his years of experience, I think Martin is open to that. If you are looking for a business opportunity, please reach out to him. For sure, they can reach out to you, right? Right, Martin?
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay, thank you,
Just
Martin.
keep in mind that I'm 12 hours away. So when it's your morning, it's my evening.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much, Martin. It's been an honor, and it has been a really, really interesting talk with you. We have covered so many topic. Of course, we have just touch based, and we were on the surface level. And I hope that we will continue with many more podcasts like this, and we will pick and choose one topic, and we'll go really, really deep into each of the topic, especially about toxins, especially about this deficiency and stagnation, and how can a normal person can revive their life. So because there is so much of experience and so much of knowledge that you have that you can share with our listeners. So thank you so much, Martin, for taking time out and coming on this show.
It's been a pleasure, Akshay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to do it.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right, so this was the end of the discussion, end of the topic of the day. But before we end this episode, I have a very special request to all of you. If you have enjoyed this discussion, please consider becoming a member of Holistic Happiness Club. There are so many special things that are going on a weekly basis in Holistic Happiness Club. So please become a member of Holistic Happiness Club. It's free, but there are so many valuable things available inside the Holistic Happiness Club, right? So please become please consider becoming a member of Holistic Happiness Club. If you want to download my ebook, I have written this ebook. The title of the ebook is The Happiness Blueprint: Practical Strategies for Achieving Fulfilled Life. It's a pocket size ebook, and it is full of so many actionable items that you can apply into your life right now, and you can start feeling the difference from today itself. So please download the book. The link to download the book will be given in the description, as well as the link to become a member of Holistic Happiness Club will also be given in the description. Right. And if you want to have a one-to-one call with me where we will discuss your roadblocks to your happiness and success, and we will together design a holistic happiness blueprint for you, you can book that call from the link which is given in the description. All right. If you want to connect with me on social media, Instagram is the place, because I'm most active on Instagram. Happiness Architect is my handle, and if you want to check more information about me, you can check out my website. My website is akshaytiwari.in. All right, with that, we have reached to the end of the episode, and till the time we are seeing each other again, take care of yourself and take care of your loved one, take care of the people around you, and always remember, happiness is a lifestyle. God bless you. Bye bye. Peace.